Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where Destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy! Hello everyone, welcome to Three Films and a Podcast. My name is Ben Lawhorn. I am joined as always by my bank heist friends here. I don't know who's gonna be the last one standing, but Tyler and Matt. Shit. I know, right? What an opening. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but damn, just one of the best. For those of you new to the show, welcome to the movie club. For those of you returning, welcome back to the movie club. Please tell everyone about us. We're here to be on a movie watching journey. Today is kind of the opposite of that, where we aren't discovering something new. We're probably discovering something that we've watched, I don't know, at least like 30 times between us, if not more, probably. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, you can find us on threefilmspod.com. We have a Patreon. We have awesome merch that Matt has designed. So check it out. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, do that.
Today, we are doing a little pod. We have a special episode. Today marks, not when we're recording this, but we're going to pretend it's actually today. It's the 15th anniversary of a little film called The Dark Knight. Today.
Okay. Right now, Matt,
is going to be the
literally
day.
Wow. This moment.
Yeah.
Check your calendar, dude. I'm pretty sure Apple sent a push notification.
No matter when you're listening to this, today is the day. It came out July 18th of 2005, which seems like just forever ago. And I don't know. I was always looking for a reason to talk about this movie, and it just felt like a good excuse to let's watch The Dark Knight and talk about it.
And we're doing our hard reboot this fall/winter. So let's sneak in a few things we want to talk about before we sunset this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I would love if someone picked this movie and made the argument for it when the new pod starts up. I think it would just be a great debate for sure. But yeah, we're in the middle of our summertime remakes right now. We're doing, what are we doing? A Star is Born, Dune, and West Side Story. So let's throw in a comic book movie.
This is something of a remake.
It is quite the remake.
It's a reboot,
Yeah. How many Batmans have we had now? Cinematic Batmans. Have we had 5? I mean, technically Adam West did 1. There was an old Batman movie. Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Kilmer, Clooney.
Mm-hmm.
Then we jumped to Bale. And then Affleck and Pattinson.
And Affleck,
Batfleck.
Yeah.
So we've had 7 cinematic Batmans. Full feature film
Crazy.
Batmans. That's nuts. Well, yeah, we're talking about the Christian Bale one tonight, but more importantly, probably we're talking about the Heath Ledger Joker. We talk about a remake, taking over a character that was Jack Nicholson's role forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I don't know. Now it's 2023. I think this is the year. We've had Joaquin, we've had Jared Leto. There have been other Jokers since, but for my money, Heath is still
dude,
takes the cake on this role.
No one touches Heath. It's crazy. I mean, we're going to talk about it a lot more as we jump in, but he's on another plane with Joker.
So good. For those of you who may not have seen The Dark Knight, or even if you have, this is the IMDb tagline. When the menace known as the Joker wreaks havoc and chaos on the people of Gotham, Batman must accept one of the greatest psychological and physical tests of his ability to fight injustice. And that's very true. There's a lot of psychological shit going on in this movie. We just need to get into it because there's so much to talk about, but easily one of the most influential films of the 21st century. It changed the way the Oscars are run now, which is kind of crazy to think about a movie doing that. And just the effect that it had. This came out the same year as Iron Man 2008. It's kind of interesting to think about that and just the success that each thing individually brought about, the Dark Knight trilogy, I mean, I guess Batman Begins kind of started that, but we had that and then the MCU, and just kind of crazy to think that this all came out the same year. So, Matt, I would love to hear from you first. I'm assuming you saw this in theaters. What's your relationship with this movie and just like your overall thoughts?
I did see it in theater. Did we see this together?
I don't know. I have no idea who I saw this with. I thought I saw it with Tyler, but he saw it with Palcher. I think I saw this in theaters like 5 times. So there's a chance that at one point we saw this together.
I think we made, one of those 5 times.
We were there. There's a 20% chance that we saw it together.
I mean, we got to address the Heath of it all. Yeah. And I know that someone out there, one of you listening, is maybe in that Kurt Cobain area where it's like, what would it have been like if Heath, had seen this to its premiere?
Yeah.
Would people think about it the same way? And we'll never know. But even so, like, you watch this movie and it's insane, the performance, especially like watching other Heath Ledger movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that alone, just from an individual actor standpoint, and then you just look at what other people did with the Joker. Even Joaquin Phoenix, who won an Oscar for his performance with his version of the Joker. It's crazy the performance that he was able to give here. And so,
yeah.
And we'll probably talk more about the Heath of it all, but I wanted to pose that for all of you out there thinking the Kurt Cobain thing. It's like, I don't know, just watch the movie and we'll never know. Never know.
Well, the lead up to this movie, a lot of the discussion was like if Heath could even do this.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people really questioning whether or not he could do this. So I really think, myself, I loved Heath Ledger. A Knight's Tale had been one of my favorite movies, and
that was the thing. But he was like the pretty boy from the Knight's Tale, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's like, can he really do this? Can he? Because like you said, he's a heartthrob. He's a pretty boy. So it's like, can he be evil and dark and kind of ugly? Like, I don't know. And so I really think the performance would have stood out regardless. Obviously, his untimely passing. You're nobody till someone kills you, right?
Yeah.
R.I.P. B.I.G. But like, I really think we would have still think about it quite the same, because it's unreal how good he is in this.
He's
like,
amazing.
It's kind of funny. Like, I was almost starting to underrate it. Like, it probably wasn't that good. It was probably what Matt was talking about. It was the hype. It was the untimely death and everything. But it's like, no, man, he is the Joker in this movie. That's such like a Twitter film bro thing to say, but it's true.
There's no trace of Heath Ledger in there.
No,
in my opinion, there's no trace of him. It's just the Joker. And he's like completely taken over that character.
And just like the little ticks that he had as the character, like licking his lips, which, we find out later was to help keep the prosthetics on, but he turned it into like a character tick, like that kind of thing. It's like so cool. One of my favorite things that he does, and it's a small thing, but it's when Gamble calls him crazy. He's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not. And then he just like emphasizes the T. It's like,
you're crazy. I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why that affects me so much, but it does.
It's like, do not call this guy crazy.
Yeah.
Again. Like, do not do it. It doesn't work out well for you.
He does not like being called that. Just before you keep going, Matt, I just want to say too, I don't think anyone who's younger than us or much younger than us really can grasp how crazy it was that they were even doing a Joker, because like Jack was the Joker. Like anytime you saw him at a Lakers game, it's like they're showing a picture of him as the Joker. Like that was just like, he was the Joker. Like we had Cesar Romero from the old campy Batman show, but it was just like, no, Jack is the Joker. That's it. No one else touch it.
Now he's just the guy from As Good as It Gets.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the best thing he can be from. But it's just kind of interesting because we have, it's the 10 Things I Hate About You guy. Like he's going to take over this role from Jack. Like, good luck, buddy. And then now it's just like, oh no, it's Heath, arguably now Joaquin. And then it goes to Jack. And, for all the animated Batman people that are yelling at us, Mark Hamill, obviously like one of the best for sure. But it actually is a coincidence that I'm wearing my King of Comedy shirt tonight as we're talking about Joaquin's Joker so much. But, you can't really ignore what he has done, but Heath was fantastic.
I'm curious. I've never really thought about this before, and I've never really heard read it anywhere, but like if you were to swap Jokers in the movies, like I still think Bale's Joker works in the Keaton version, but Jack's version doesn't work in the Nolan version. You know, like, and that really says something about the Joker that Heath put on screen. I will say, like, I think Joaquin's Joker would fit in like the Burton Keaton version, but not necessarily so much the Dark Knight. But I don't know. I just never really thought about that before. And I mean, to me, that says something about.
There's not enough staircases, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Chicago's pretty flat.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Swapping Jokers. You never know with multiverses. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see 5 Jokers in a movie.
Yeah, right.
What I did want to say about this movie, and Ben, you pointed out that it's kind of interesting that this year saw Iron Man and The Dark Knight, and for better or for worse, it kind of it kind of started them off on their individual comic book cinematic universe trajectories, and where Marvel kind of found its footing with its cinematic direction. This might be a hot take here, and anyone can get on here and argue with me in the comments, but I almost feel like Nolan's trilogy almost like really was a big stumbling block for the DC expanded comic book universe.
Because it set the bar too high.
Well, I think it set the bar too high from like a film standpoint, but then from just like a DC brand aesthetic, it's not like the most DC trilogy. It's very Batman. Like he found his own aesthetic with it, and I felt like they kind of tried to find filmmakers that could maybe emulate that aesthetic, copying this Nolan trilogy, when really like the Burton Batman's kind of is more of the DC vibe. And so I felt like if DC had more, like, I guess if Warner Brothers had been able to hone more of that DC energy, like going forward, maybe they would have been in a better place and maybe would have been able to replicate the MCU success, but they went like seemingly all in on the Christopher Nolan type, which Christopher Nolan, it was great for like an isolated Batman story and an isolated Batman trilogy, but not conducive to bring in like an Aquaman, a Superman, a Flash.
Yeah. Well, it's also like they took it away from Nolan and gave it to Snyder, because I think Nolan was like an executive producer on Man of Steel and maybe even the next one. So it's like they kind of wanted him involved, but I just think he didn't want to do comic book stuff forever. And it went to Snyder, who was kind of like the Joss Whedon, of like the MCU, whatever at that time. And for me, in my opinion, as much as I love Man of Steel, like that's kind of the downfall. Like, I don't think Snyder is a great storyteller. I don't think he's good at necessarily like writing original stuff, but he's good at putting stuff on screen. I think that's why like his Justice League works well. Again, we've talked about it. Like you give someone 5 hours, they better be able to tell a good story. And he does, which is also an accomplishment. But yeah, it's like what is the world like where we get, Gal Gadot's like Wonder Woman and Henry Cavill's Man of Steel to mix in with Christian Bale's Batman. Like that'd be an interesting Justice League to see for sure. But yeah, it's just like, this is a very standalone, like, oh, we just have this masterpiece trilogy over here. And then we're going to do this on this side, it's like, okay, interesting decision, but whatever, Yeah.
And I would be curious to know, you would think I would have read this somewhere, but I don't know, like if Marvel had any indication that they were going to have this whole MCU run, because it feels to me that like Marvel tried to, with Iron Man, they tried to set an aesthetic and like a reusable tone, like a tone that a matchable tone, right? Because the first run of the first phase of the MCU feels very much one aesthetic, one tone. They all kind of fit together. And I'd be curious to know if that was a coincidence or like happenstance luck thing or by design. Well, because like what you guys are talking about, you can't, like the Nolan tone just doesn't extend out to like a broader universe. It's not as moldable, it's not as pliable. Whereas the MCU, they kind of had this like middle ground, really good, really interesting and fun tone, but just more pliable and easier adaptable.
Well, I feel like the Marvel has an established brand, and it carried very well from the page to the screen. And it's
Right.
easy once you have a brand established, it's easier to kind of follow that if you have the right creatives involved. DC has a pretty good brand established too. And I think it could have translated really well onto the screen. And it's not to say that the wrong creatives are involved, but I feel like Nolan's trilogy was maybe like a pivot one direction from it that worked really well for Batman, but didn't work as well for like anything else. And so, as Ben said, like you bring in Zack Snyder, who like maybe he was instructed to take like a darker approach, which DC is a darker. They have darker elements.
Yeah.
I mean, Batman or Superman and Wonder Woman and Flash, maybe not so much, but the universe as a whole introduces some darker elements. So like that's on brand. But I just think it's just interesting to think that like with Iron Man, well, you look at MCU today and you're like, this is all because of Iron Man back when this movie came out, 2007,
2008. Yeah.
2008. And you look at the DC universe right now where they're struggling to put butts in seats. And I think that's thanks to The Dark Knight, because they have not been able to get that footing for whatever reason.
Yeah. I
Very important
agree with that more. Totally. Huh. Yeah, I honestly don't know what else I could add for, my personal experience. I do feel like this was one of those moments in time that were a moment, right? Like a recognizable sort of like memorable moment. Like this was an event, this movie coming out. I remember, going to like I went to a midnight showing, and like just the buzz and the vibe in that theater was just absolutely electric. And a scene we're going to talk about a little bit later, I'll never forget it. It was like you could feel the buzz in the crowd. You could feel like it. I don't know. It was something that was like palpable but intangible, right? And it was just, we've all had it, right? And it's why I like that question in our Clubhouse segment. That's why I like talking about it. But it was just, this was one of those moments, and much like a No Way Home experience or an Endgame, and there's been other similar things, but it tends to be these types of movies that have that effect, like Dune's coming up and Lord of the Rings. These like these stories that we all know and love, and these adventures really seem to resonate, and I just love it, and it's an experience I'll never forget. And it's why we love doing this show. It's why we love going to movies. And I don't even mean to get all like sad boy about it, but it's just I don't know. It's why I love this stuff, man. And this is one of those moments for me, one of those movies, and I'll despite whatever shortcomings it may have or whatever, but like I don't know, it's really special and really important. I think it's a really cool thing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because these are milestone movies, because they're the IP is big enough that so many people are bought into it. And in this case, it's a movie that delivered. It's like there's an unspoken promise that you all love this, we know you love it, and here's a great product. And you don't always get that. I mean, right. This day and age, people are looking for reasons to hate things. That wasn't the case back then. Like no one was. I mean, there may be some naysayers, as Ben mentioned with Heath Ledger, like, oh, the guy from A Knight's Tale, like, let's go watch this guy suck at being the Joker. But like,
there were some hesitations, but
everyone was quickly silenced on that. And everyone just collectively could just like buy in and be like, okay, this is like one of the coolest things. And I feel like because of recency bias, we think of Endgame as like our pivotal cinematic moment, but like, you're totally right. Like movies like this, just because of the nature of them, they were that Endgame experience in 2008.
Yeah. And there's something they both had in common is, and you just kind of helped me get here, is no one wanted them to fail. You know what I mean? People had like questions about Heath Ledger and The Dark Knight. People had questions about how can they possibly fix, whatever happened after Infinity War and whatever. But like with The Flash, we all kind of secretly wanted it to fail. You know what I mean? Like, or at least weren't going to be surprised when it did. You know what I mean? Like there was like more cynical almost, it's kind of sad. And so that's why I think, but again, it like I was going to compare it to the excitement for Dune Part 2 coming up. I was going to compare The Flash and Dune Part 2. And there's no cynicism behind Dune 2. There's a lot of hope. There's, everyone's pretty excited about this adaptation coming out. But it goes back to what Matt said, like, this is something we know you care about, and we really wanted to do something. We really wanted to do it right for you, and here you go. Like, I don't know. I think that's why I have so much hype over Dune Part 2. And this is why it's these moments, and I'm just really hoping it. But there's no one out there like, Villeneuve's gonna fuck it up. You know what I mean? Like, the dude from Major League.
To your point, it's like, for me anyway, and I think a lot of people, we were surprised by how good Batman Begins was, because our last experience was Batman and Robin, and then all of a sudden we're getting like serious Batman again. And I know for myself, at least, I had no idea who Christopher Nolan was. So I'm like, who's this guy that they're having doing a Batman movie? You know, like, all right, you know, we'll see. And then that ends up being like a great success.
Great success.
Which is, to an extent, kind of similar with Denis Villeneuve and Dune, where it's just like the last one we had was Lynch, which was like even campier than Batman and Robin, which is hard to believe, you know? And then it's like, all right, I know the technology's up to date, but this is a hard story to tell. People have tried and just like stopped, you know? And then it comes out and it just, everyone's like, holy shit, he did it. Like, that's amazing. I think that was kind of the feeling with Batman Begins. And part of the good thing of The Dark Knight, I think, is that like, we're done with the origin story. We know who he is now, you know? And I know in watching this, I'm just like reminded so much about like my problems with the Batman, because like, I love all the Bruce Wayne shit in this. I love when he's like, oh, let's put a couple tables together. It's like, I don't know if they'll let us do that. It's like, they probably will. I own the place, you know. It's just like, yes, this is the shit I like fucking crash your Lamborghini to save someone. It's like, this is the stuff that I missed in the Batman, and I love it here. And we got a lot of great stuff of that too in Batman Begins. So I think for me, like, besides Heath, my favorite thing that Nolan does in this whole trilogy is continues to introduce new cities, but use them as Gotham. So like, we had actually New York in Batman Begins, which is rad. We get Pittsburgh, you know, some of that surrounding area in The Dark Knight Rises. And then this one, he uses Chicago in The Dark Knight. And it's just like, it's great, it's so because it's fluid. It feels just like, this is like an expansive city that all works Gotham together.
Seem so big,
right? Yeah,
it makes it seem huge
and relatable, but foreign at the same time.
Yeah, and it all works like just so much cool shit. I really enjoyed that about his like approach to Gotham itself, because that really is a huge character. I think that's why the Burton ones work so well, is because like, we really know what Gotham feels like. I think you can just think about that movie and it's like, okay, it's snowing, like it's kind of blue, like, you know, it's like you can just picture what it is. And I feel like you can do the same here with the Dark Knight trilogy. This is one of the first movies to really use a lot of IMAX, which again is weird to think about, because with Oppenheimer coming out, the whole movie's in IMAX, you know? But this one, I was watching kind of the behind the scenes thing, and Nolan pitches to Wally Pfister, who's like his DP. He's like, I want to do the whole intro in IMAX. And it's like, oh, okay, I got to figure out how to do this now, because like it had only really been used for nature stuff. You know, it's like fucking penguins, so to speak, you know, pun intended. But just like all these nature docs or whatever. But now he's like, no, I want to do the bank heist in IMAX. Like, all right. But it's a great choice, because like, that's just one of the coolest scenes I've ever seen in a theater. Like, it's so good. And I mean, we talked about our old Rushmore or our old, Clubhouse segments, and you know, my answer for a movie I wish I could see again for the first time is Inception. But there are scenes in this movie that I like watching it again, I'm like, God damn, it's such a good scene. Like, this is so good. We'll talk about it. I'm sure we'll have like I was talking to Matt earlier, you know, before we started recording. It's like, I mean, really, like pick a segment. We talk about dartboard movies, and this is it, where it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if it's like, you know, Harvey Dent like cross-examining the guy in the theater, like, or in the courthouse. Like, that's a great scene. That's super cool. Like, there's so much good stuff in here. But the last thing I want to mention is just how much I really enjoyed Gary Oldman in this movie. Like, he's really good. The twist that they do with his character is awesome. He's just a great fit, I think, for this universe. I love him, you know, as Commissioner Gordon, and the storytelling here, man, like, this just must have been so much fun to come up with, because like the twists and turns and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's fantastic. I don't know. This movie's great. There's a reason it's like until recently, it was my fourth favorite movie of all time. You know, it was on my Letterboxd top 4, and then got bumped for Everything Everywhere. But even watching this, I was like, I don't know, maybe I put it back. It's like, this movie is really fucking good. Like, and I know, you know, there's plenty of critiques and there's the film bro aspect of liking this movie, but it's just hard not to appreciate it. Yeah.
I do have one slight hot take. I agree with everything you just said wholeheartedly, 100 complete, 100%. Like, I have this thing rated 5 stars on Letterboxd. I had a whole monologue about how important it was to me because of the moment, blah, 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 blah. Love this movie. Watching it last night, and this is actually more so just like a comparison with the other 2 movies in this trilogy. I really feel like, you know, like The Dark Knight Rises takes a lot of shit for not really being the best ending or whatever. Like, people seem to think like it's fine, but whatever. But I really think like all 3 movies are on the exact same plane. Mm-hmm. But Heath Ledger's performance just drags this up so much. Like, I really think, like, minus Heath, this is on par with The Dark Knight Rises or Batman Begins. Like, it's a level playing field, but Heath just really, really pulls this thing up like a few notches. And like, I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but just watching it last night, every moment that Heath wasn't on screen seemed like a bummer, despite how much I love all those other scenes you were mentioning. I love the stuff with Gordon and Dent and just Batman and whatever. Love all that stuff. It's great, but I wanted to be with the Joker every moment of this movie. And a lot of that has to do with the electricity you feel from the very beginning in that bank heist, you know, like that moment, that opening was actually like another event when it came out on Blu-ray. I remember it was such a big deal that you could watch the IMAX scenes if you had a Blu-ray player and stuff. So it was like, you got 2 moments out of it. And I don't know, but I just was like, I don't think it's talked about a lot, but I don't think it can be talked about enough, like how good Heath Ledger is in this movie. I don't know. It blows my mind.
Yeah. And to Matt's like Kurt Cobain point earlier, it's like, I wonder what Dark Knight Rises would be if Heath was still around, because he's just an Arkham, you know, like at the end of Dark Knight. And I assume the plan was to have him around for this movie for Dark Knight Rises. So yeah, it's similar to, you know, like Last Jedi or whatever, where it's like, well, to me, the Princess Leia story, then like it kind of can't be, you know, it's like, oh, this is like, I still think they pulled it off, but it's like, oh, what could this have been if we had what, you know, what we really wanted to be, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the last thing I'll say about Joker is I love so much that when he's talking to Harvey Dent, when he's in the hospital, obviously there's the humor in like Two-Face not recognizing him till he moves his mask, but he's got like white caked, you know, like black eyes and stuff. And he moves it, and then Two-Face freaks out like, oh my God, it's the Joker. You know, it's like, what do you mean? Like, obviously that's the Joker. This is crazy. But I love, he has like the gun to his head and he's like, do I look like a man with a plan? You know, and like the Batman interrogation, he talks about chaos and stuff. But this dude had so much stuff planned out, but I love that he played it off like, I don't know, I just like chaos. It's like, yeah, but you also plan out a lot of shit. Like some of it to almost unbelievable, you know, points where it's just like, oh, so you wanted to be caught. You thought you'd go to the MCU. Also kind of funny. They keep calling it the MCU the same year Iron Man comes out. Cause obviously that wasn't really a thing then at that point, you know, it's like Joker left the MCU. But man, just so much stuff like this being inspired by Heat, going to Hong Kong and jumping off a fucking building, like, you know, Mission Impossible 3, just like doing all this stuff. It's like, there's just so many sequences. I mean, I think it just kind of leads us into our elevator pitch. I think we've got to do our best to each pick one scene, to show someone. I don't know anyone who's like 25 and older on this planet who hasn't seen this. You know, it kind of feels like everybody has seen this. But if you did come across someone that you were trying to get them to watch this movie, I'm curious what scene that you would pick to show them. And Tyler, I'm gonna throw it to you first. What is your elevator pitch?
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Yeah, so I was gonna actually be like all cute and try to find like a sort of like cute, an underrated scene. Oh, thanks, Ben. I was going to try to find like an underrated scene or a scene that I didn't think would be talked about or something not flashy or spoilery, but I can't do it, man. Like the scene I mentioned earlier on opening night that just like you could breathe in the electricity in the room was the pencil trick scene.
Oh god,
good. The mob scene. It feels like the most cliche pick, and I mean it really is, but for a reason. Like this scene had like jaws on floors, like there wasn't oxygen being inhaled or exhaled at that moment. Everyone's holding their breath, and it was like, I don't know, man. It's one of those special moments, and it's a time that's rare in life, and just that the moment with the magic trick really lets you know like where this movie's gonna go. Like it's not gonna be graphic and gory, but it's gonna be violent, it's gonna be intense, and it's gonna have like real stakes. It's gonna be like there's life and death involved here, and it let us know like, no, this is the Joker that you got. Like this is the new standard. This is, I don't know. I could go on and on and on, but even watching it again last night, it's still the same. It's still, and then the goofy way he kicks himself out of the room, and
yeah,
there's humor to it. Like,
you ought to know, you bought it,
insight,
yeah,
right. Real insight into his character and maybe his origins with the way he responds. Like, I'm not crazy, I don't know, just phenomenal stuff. And it's still as good as it was the first time today when I watch it on a laptop screen versus the giant IMAX screen.
Give me one reason why I shouldn't have my boy here pull your head off.
How about a magic trick? I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
It's gone.
So much great stuff. I mean, that's the first time I think that we really get to know the Joker. It's his first scene outside of the heist. And in the heist, we learn that he's smart and he's calculated because he knows like, cool, I'm going to hire 8 people, but it's just going to be me that leaves. I've thought all this out and just all that. Like, okay, so he's a smart person. And then we see him briefly. It's like, oh, he's also really creepy looking, but that's it. But then we get this and it's just like hearing him, even just the way he talks, like, in the TV there, his idea, just calling him the TV. He's like, he's a squealer. And then that makes Lau like, oh, I got to get out of here. It's like, oh, he can read him. He knows him, And I think that kind of leads to, are you guys familiar with Patton Oswalt's take on the Joker's history? Have you heard that at all?
No.
But I love Patton Oswalt.
It's really, really interesting. And essentially, he kind of says that he feels like the Joker is someone who served in Afghanistan as like an interrogation expert because he has a lot of military experience. He knows the guns. He can read people. He talks about when he's with Dent, it's like a busload of soldiers blows up and everyone's fine with it, but I kill one little mayor and people freak out. Like there's just a lot of kind of ties to that. Obviously he goes more in depth, but that's the basic, like that's kind of his history. He's like a soldier with PTSD who just kind of like loses it, but he has all this knowledge and experience with weapons and all that kind of stuff. Like that's interesting. That's just kind of tracked for me ever since I heard it. And I don't know, Patton, when it comes to nerd stuff, it's like, I get it. That's kind of interesting. It's interesting to me that I'm not mad at that because one of the things I'm mad at about Joker is that, we see exactly what his deal is. You know what I mean? Like it's a mental health disorder. And I really like, it really bummed me out to like, I know it's not putting a stigma on the mental health community or whatever, but it just seemed like, I don't know, maybe it was just too real. You know what I mean? Maybe it was just, it seemed like exploitive, you know what I mean? It just rubbed me the wrong way and I don't really know why. But I totally buy Patton's version of the Heath Joker. So
I'm uncertain about Patton's version. So I would like to invite Patton on the pod.
Please, yes.
To back it up.
Come explain it.
Yeah.
No, but it's cool though too, because we get 3 different versions of like, do you want to know how I got these scars? So they do still keep you guessing about like, we really don't know what's going on with this dude. Like no idea where he came from. yeah, when they say he has no fingerprints, like all he had was just a bunch of knives and stuff on him, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this dude thought of everything. So I don't know. That's a great scene. The pencil scene is, it's at the beginning of the movie, but it's still stuff that everyone talked about when they left the theater. It's like, oh my gosh, you remember that? Yeah.
It's like we're watching a Batman movie. Like I grew up watching Batman cartoons, and I'm seeing Joker put a pencil through a guy's head.
Yeah.
Not to say that like the key, there is like dark stuff in the other Batman movies, but this definitely felt like grittier, and you felt like right off the bat, the Joker's like a really bad dude that's unhinged and willing to do whatever in a more real way than like Jack Nicholson, I don't know, or Penguin, like riding a duck into Gotham City. And
yeah. It was like the next time we see this in any sort of serious way is John Wick, like when he kills the dude with the pencil. It's like, oh, this is what it looked like without the fast movements. Like we're just watching this person die through a pencil. So minus the blood, but yeah, it's a solid pick.
Yeah. And it leads to my pick because I feel like that pencil trick sets Joker up right away to the point where like every time he's on the screen, every time you hear him talk, like, he's serious and earnest about everything that he's saying. Like you believe everything that he's saying. Like if he says he's going to kill these people, he's going to.
Yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, we'll try to stop him or he's bluffing. Like this guy is not bluffing at all. And so my elevator pitch would actually be a good Rushmore too. It's when he calls in to the news show and he's talking about blowing up the hospitals and just how menacing of a voice it is.
Yeah.
And like everyone's watching and like immediately after like Gary Oldman's like telling everyone he's like going into cop mode, like you cover this hospital.
Yeah.
Like they know that this dude is going to blow up a hospital.
This is no joke.
And that would be this isn't my pick for Rushmore, skipping ahead, but that would be a great pick for like menacing phone call.
Oh yeah.
Or menacing voice over a phone.
I've had a change of heart. I don't want Mr. Reese spoiling everything, but why should I have all the fun? Let's give someone else a chance. If Coleman Reese isn't dead in 60 minutes, then I blow up a hospital.
Yeah, I mean, I think about that too when we see earlier when he has that guy in like the self-taped stuff, and he's like, are you the Batman? Like, why do you do this? It's just I think about like, what was that like just to be that other actor opposite Heath Ledger, just really channeling the Joker and given free will to just make a ransom video essentially. Mm-hmm. Like that's just, it's still chilling to me to watch that stuff, there's the way he yells, look at me.
Oh, shush. So you think Batman's made Gotham a better place? Look at me.
Look at me.
Just goes a whole different octave. It's like, oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
That look at me in the theater hit like a sledgehammer.
Yeah. So good. So menacing. And yeah, just like that's a wonderful scene and just leads to obviously so much great stuff. But yeah, if Coleman Reese isn't dead in an hour, I'm going to blow up a hospital or something like that. It's like, oh shit. Okay. Yeah. My scene is, there's so many to choose from, but I'm going to go with, I guess, my gut. Here's what I want to pick. I want to just pick the scene of the semi flipping over because that is such a cool fucking scene. Like that's the thing I think about in the movie theater. It's like, oh my God, they just flipped over a semi truck. Like, I don't know why it's so amazing to me, but it is, like, it's just like, it's, he goes underneath it and does all that weird shit with the bike and whatever. And just watching that flip over is so cool. But what I am going to pick, because I think it would be interesting for someone to wonder how they got in this situation, is Commissioner Gordon leaving Joker in the cell. He's like, oh, good cop, bad cop routine. He's like, kind of. And then we flick on the lights and Batman's right behind him and just like smashes his head down. And he's like, never start with the head, like all that kind of stuff. I really enjoy that dynamic between them because it's one of the few times where it's just the two of them, like kind of going at it. And it's like so much just like wordplay. He's getting the shit beat out of him. And he's like, you can't scare me, dude. Like you can beat me up all you want. Like you have nothing to scare me with. I really enjoy all that. And then even Commissioner Gordon at one point be like, he's in control. And then realizing he's out of control. And like they try to go run in there and he like Batman shoves like the chair under the door. Like, nope, I'm not letting these guys stop this. Like I'm getting everything I want. So yeah, I love the interrogation scene so much. And even just that, even up to the point where he just like smashes his face in, I could just show that, you know, by like the old good cop, bad cop routine. It gives like the finger guns, the click, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's so funny. And I think it'd be interesting as someone who hasn't seen it. It's like, oh, how, okay, hold on. Like so they catch him, but like what's going on here? All that kind of stuff. So, but honestly, like this is, I always refer to Beaches as the best like opening scene that kind of hooks you in, but I mean, this might be it, you know, like it's just like, it's so good. There's so many scenes that we could pick here. But yeah, I don't know. Just throw it on at some random point if you haven't seen it for some reason.
You know, so the fact that Batman won't kill someone is, you know, a huge part of his character. It's maybe like the core of his character, right?
Yeah.
And it's something that I appreciate about Batman over Superman as a character, because like that's a weakness for Batman, right? Like ultimately in this moment, that's a weakness for Batman because they have the Joker right there.
Yeah.
And it's done, dude. It's done.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
just end this all.
I'm not advocating murder by any means, but like, you know, but like for Superman, it's like, oh, you have to have this like fucking rare mineral from another planet to stop this guy. Like, okay, cool weakness. Like it's real glaring weakness there. And, you know, I know, what was it? A laundry chute or whatever on the Death Star brought it down. You know, the smallest thing can bring down the mightiest vessel. But I don't know, man. I just think it's funny. Like Batman should have just killed him. I know it's your moral code, and I know, but it's like, and I know
justice has to be served, Tyler.
Joker wouldn't put himself in that position. Trial. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's funny. Like it's kind
of funny though. It's like they address that in this movie, like when they go to the vault, and you know, Commissioner Gordon at that point, I guess Lieutenant Gordon, whatever, is just like, well, what about this other guy? You know, it's like the entire mob or just one guy dressed as a clown. Like, let's go after the mob. Because like even at that point, it's like he can't be that serious. Like he's just some guy, you know, who got lucky or whatever. So yeah, then to like see what he's able to pull off and just to see everyone realize just how powerful he is. Again, going back to your pencil scene, when everyone's like, all right, how much do you want to kill Batman? He's like, give me half of your money. And they just all laugh him off. He's like, okay, cool. Good luck, guys. See ya. You know, I'm out of here. But, and then he obviously ends up getting it and just like literally burning it all. Like it's, I don't know. He really is an agent of chaos, but all right, cool. I mean, honestly, we could probably go for 2 more hours, like just talking about this movie. But let's get to our last segment here.
Quick, easy one tonight, boys.
Yeah, really quick and fast.
We behind the scenes, we told each other this is going to be like a 30-minute pod. We're pushing 45 minutes here.
Here we go.
I love it.
More.
How can you not, man? This movie's so fun.
It deserves it for sure. You know, like this is, it's a wonderful film. All right, we're going to get to our new segment. We're doing our reverse Rushmore mountain. You know, in the past, we have picked a Rushmore that fell in line with what the movie is and picked movies that fell under that Rushmore category. But we're flipping it on its head here, and we're using the Dark Knight individually to come up with the Rushmore that we think it would work best for. So what Rushmore would you build around the Dark Knight? Matt, I'm going to throw it to you first.
These are OR scrubs.
Oh, are they?
We've talked about him a little bit. I got to go with a man named Gary O. Gary Oldman.
Oh.
Played an all-time great Commissioner Gordon, Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
Was great. He was great throughout this trilogy, but like specifically great in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making a Gary O Rushmore. This movie's on it. And if I had to fill it out just off the top of my head, you know, I'm throwing on Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Throw on Prisoner of Azkaban, Sirius Black, you know.
I've done my waiting.
Yeah, exactly. And just those screaming posters were just screaming. For my third pick, I'd probably throw on Goblet of Fire.
Yeah. Yep.
And
I like that. Yeah.
Fourth pick, probably just got to go Order of the Phoenix.
Why not? That's the way to go. I think it's the perfect Gary O.
Warner Brothers Gary O.
Yeah, all his indie hits.
All page to screen.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that.
I love it.
Well, I know you haven't seen it, but I would throw Leon the Professional on there just for his
I gotta watch
his line reading of everyone. I love that scene so much. But
Benny, bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Tyler, what is your reverse Rushmore?
Well, you helped me realize it. I forgot that the opening sequence of this movie was an IMAX sequence. The one I always think of is when he jumps off the tower in Shanghai, or when they go to Shanghai. Because I remember specifically when you watch the Blu-ray, the aspect ratio changes in real time. So, and it kind of like the screen kind of grows. Mm-hmm. And so that IMAX moment stands out more than the opening because you really see the growth in the screen. But opening sequence Rushmore, man, like it's gotta be top 4, if not top 2. Like off the top of my head, I can think of like the opening of Saving Private Ryan is probably have to be number 1. I mean, it sent people into like very sad, like into fits of PTSD. Like that's not funny or anything or cool, but it's like, that's effective. That's one hell of a fucking sequence, you know, like if it's that really that triggering. And it was an extremely visceral experience to go through, you know, as a viewer, especially on the big screen. Like it was intense stuff, you know?
Yeah.
But next to that has got to be something like The Dark Knight, because again, you could hear a pin drop in the theater. That the score at that moment has that cool hum, that sustained buzz. And just you're playing catch up the whole time and you're immediately into the action. Like I watched this with Alex last night, and the moment where they slide down the zip line, you know, got like an audible reaction out of her. She's like, holy shit, you know, that's crazy. Like just like the intensity of that scene and like you just hit the ground running, man. And it's crazy that the movie can sustain that momentum, you know, like that rock's rolling pretty down that hill pretty fast, and somehow the movie keeps up. But I don't know, man, it's crazy. Speaking of, okay, so adding to the opening sequence, Indiana Jones, the first one, whatever the first one is, with the rock rolling out of the temple. No, not temple of Doom. Doesn't matter. That's the one. So those are 3 on the Rushmore. I'm sure there's a 4th out there somewhere.
Suggest a 4th?
Yes, please.
I think Scream would be really good.
Oh, okay.
The whole Drew Barrymore
I'll allow it.
swap. Yeah, that was pretty good one. It can be in the holding. You know, we can kind of figure out for sure what the 4th is. But
I love that the point of this new Rushmore is that we only talk about one movie.
I know, right?
We can't help but like fill them out on the fly.
We're filling it out ourselves.
But I like that. That means we watch a lot of fun stuff.
We really do. Along those lines, the Rushmore I would do is movies that the best supporting actor, like performances, movies with great supporting actor performances, Oscar winning even. And honestly, like I just pulled up a list, and even just in the last 10 years, you could fill one out and be okay with it. Like Ke Huy Quan, obviously, for Everything Everywhere last year. Daniel Kaluuya in Judas and the Black Messiah was fantastic. Mahershala Ali in Moonlight. I was gonna say Moon Knight. He's not in that. Might be in Blade though, but not in Moonlight.
Might be.
But J.K. Simmons in Whiplash, like there's really, and then Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards 2010. Like there's so many good ones in the last 15 years since The Dark Knight has come out. But obviously, if we go even earlier than that, Robin Williams, Good Will Hunting, we recently talked about him. Like there's so many cool roles. I would have trouble coming up with this Rushmore, but I do feel confident in saying that Heath Ledger's Dark Knight would be on there for sure. I'd be looking for 3 others. So that's how I go with Oscar-winning performances by supporting actors.
This has to be on that Rushmore. They changed the rules for it. You know, it's like it's the fucking Shack of supporting actor Oscars.
Like, we got to make new rules now because of this. Well, I'm hesitant to ask if there's anything else we want to say because we were already like running at 50 minutes. But
no.
Yeah,
I'm sure we could, but we gotta
call it. This was super fun to talk about. We'd love to hear what you guys think about this movie. Is it one of the best comic book movies of all time? Is it just one of the best movies of all time? Like, let us know what you think. Tell us about, your favorite Ledger performance, any of that stuff. You can find us anywhere online. We're at 3 Films Pod for the next foreseeable future. But again, as Tyler mentioned, we have a hard reboot coming, which we're very excited about. It's going to be a lot of fun. So just stay tuned and we'll keep everyone informed. Thank you all for your support, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Criminals in this town used to believe in things. Honor, respect. Look at you. What do you believe in, huh? What do you believe in?
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.